Hello students, today we're going to be looking at formulae, plural of formula, and we have two lesson objectives. One is to be able to identify expressions, equations, formula, identities, and inequalities, and two, we need to be able to use formulae or use a formula, substitute into the formula, for example. So let's get to the starter. Here are your starter questions. Pause the video and spend 10 minutes doing these questions. Once you're through, resume the video to check your answers. Here are your answers. Pause the video to mark them, then resume the video when you are ready to move on. Okay, before we move on, there are a few questions that I'd like to highlight. For question 1, if we want 75 squared, we'd have to multiply 75 times 75, and when you do your column method or grid method, whatever method of multiplication you use, you would get 5,625. Okay, another question that I want to highlight is question 3. We're asked you to simplify the ratio 3 hours to 150 minutes. Now, because they're different units, one is in hours, one is in minutes, you're going to make the units the same. So I'm going to write it here, 3 hours to 150 minutes. So you would change hours to minutes, and so 3 hours would be the same as 180 minutes. So we have the ratio 180 minutes to 150 minutes, and then we can simplify. So we can divide both sides by 10 first, and we get 18 to 15, and then we could divide by 3, and then we would get 6 to 5. So that was the final answer as you are seeing in the answer list. Alright, another problem that I'd want for us to look at is question 8. So it says that we need to work out 3 squared minus 2 plus 5 minus 2 in bracket times 5. So this is our bid mass application, and so we could square our 3 here, which gives us 9, and then we have minus 2 plus, we can work out the brackets as well, which would give us 3, and then times by 3, and so we'd multiply first, which gives us 9. Alright, so we'd end up with 9 minus 2 plus 9, and then we can work that out. 9 plus 9 is 18, minus 2 will give us 16. And then the final question I'd like to highlight is question 9. We did a bit of expanding and simplifying. So we'd expand this bracket here using the box method that I showed to you, but to go quickly, I'll do 2 times 3a is 6a, and then 2 times minus b is minus 2b, and then we'd have to multiply our positive 2 times a to get positive 2a, and our positive 2 times b to get positive 2b, and then we can simplify. So we have 6a plus 2a, which is going to give us 8a, and then we have minus 2b plus 2b, which is 0, so we're just left with 8a. Now let's move to our next slide. let's look at what equations are. So an equation is a mathematical statement that shows two expressions are equal. We looked at what expressions are already. Now, for an equation, it always has an equal sign. So one expression on the left, one expression on the right, and we're saying that those two expressions are equal. And we can find out a solution for our variable, and our variable can be whatever letter is in the equation, whether it's going to be x or y or p or z. We can find a solution which makes the statement true. So here are some examples of an equation. So for the first one here, we have 3x is equal to 6. So we can find a value for x so that 3x will give you 6. Here's another equation, 3x minus 5 is 0. We can find a value for x that will make 3x minus 5 be equal to 0. Okay, we can find in this equation a value for x where 2 times x plus 5 will be equal to 16. And so we have expressions, two expressions, one on the left, one on the right, which are equal. So we see where there's always an equal sign in our equation, and then one expression is on the left, one expression is on the right. Okay, and that's what makes our equation. Now next up we have our identities. So an identity is an equation that is always true no matter what values for the variable is substituted, and this is our identity symbol. Okay, we don't always use it, but we can use that symbol to represent identity. An identity shows equivalence, so our left side is going to be identical to our right side. So let's look at a few examples. So here we have, in this example, a plus b, and it's exactly the same as b plus a. So on the right, even though it looks it's not the same or same format, but they're identical to each other, they're just the same. If we do 3 times x, we know is identical to 3x. Even though we're not seeing that multiplication sign on our right, it still represents 3 times x. Here again, we have x times x is identical to x squared. If we have a times b or ab, right, it is identical to multiplying b times a. So that's an identity. And if you look at our brackets, if I should expand this bracket, I will get 3 times x gives me 3x, and 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. So both the left and right side of the equation here are identical. Okay, so we can use our symbol to represent identity. Now we have our inequalities. An inequality is a statement which compares two expressions. So we use one of these inequality symbols that I'm circling when we are comparing expressions to tell whether one is less than another, if one is greater than another, or if one is not equal to another. So here are some examples of inequalities. So we have 2x plus y is less than 7. This is a giveaway to tell you it's an inequality. X is greater than 3, 2x is greater than or equal to 8, y is less than or equal to 4, and on this one we have 5 is not equal to 3 plus 4, sorry, because 3 plus 4 is 7, so 5 cannot be equal to 7. Okay, so we have our expressions, one on the left, one on the right, and then we have our inequality symbol, which tells you what's happening or what's the relationship between the two expressions when we compare them. Now let's look at formulae. Now formulae is just a plural for more than one formula. Okay, so let's look at what a formula is. A formula or a function is a rule written using symbols that describe a relationship between different variables or different quantities. It has more than one variable, x, y, a, b, etc. We have an equal sign in there, and we can find a solution for the formula if we are given the values for other parts of the formula. So let's look at some examples of formulae. So the first one we have is the cost of tickets is equal to the number of tickets you buy multiplied by the price of one ticket. So sometimes you can have your formula written out in words. Okay, here's another formula. Area is equal to base times height, and we know that formula is quite popular, or we should be able to tell what this one is. It's the area of a rectangle or even a parallelogram. Here's the formula for the area of a circle. So area of a circle is equal to pi r squared. We have volume of a cuboid, length times width times height. We have perimeter of a rectangle, so the perimeter is twice the length plus twice the width. And then we have a special formula here for the equation of a straight line. You'll learn that later on. So with our formula, we have different variables. We have, for example, where we have the area of the rectangle, we have the area which can change depending on this b, the base, which is a variable, and our height of the rectangle, which is also a variable. Okay, so we have different variables, and we can work out the area of a rectangle if we are told what b is and if we're told what h is. So depending on what we are given, we can find out values in our formula. Now here's your first task. I would like you to decide whether each of these questions in the blue boxes are either an expression, equation, inequality, identity, or a formula. So you're going to do a heading in your book with these titles, and then below the titles you can write down each of the questions in the correct column. Okay, I want you to spend no more than 10 minutes based on what we discussed about the different expressions, equations, inequality, etc. Which ones would be or would fit under each column. So pause your video. When you're through, resume the video to check your answer. Alright, let us check. So I'm just gonna label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's column 1 to 5. And then beside each blue box, I'm just gonna say which column it will fit below. So in our first one, that would be an identity, so it would go under column 5. For this one, area, base times height, that would fall underneath the formula under column 4. Then x plus 7 is an equation, fits under column 2. 4 is an expression, fits under column 1. 2x minus 5 is also an expression under column 1. X cubed would be identity, because x cubed is exactly x times x, so that will go under column 5 because it's an identity. And as I said before, with our identities, we don't always put the symbol in, especially when we're going to test you. You have to be able to tell if one side is exactly the same as the other. So that's on the column 5. Here we have an equation for this 2x minus 5, so it fall under column 2. Here we have another identity. 6x is still 6 times x. Here we have a formula, which is column 4. Here we have an equation, which is column 2. Here we have another equation, column 2. Here we have an expression, column 1. Here we have an inequality, column 3. Here we have a formula, column 4. Here we have another formula, column 4. Here we have an identity, and the giveaway is a symbol, so that's column 5. Here we have a formula, so that's column 4. Here we have an expression, column 1. Here we have an inequality, column 3. And here we have an expression, column 1. Well, now we're going to look at using formula. So we're going to, for this task, be substituting into formula to calculate values of an unknown. And as I said, for a formula, if you want to calculate any variable in the formula, they will give you the other variables that are needed for you to work out the one you're asked to find. So it says here is the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle, and we need to work out the perimeter if W is 4 and L is 6. So P is the perimeter, 2W plus 2L. If you notice, they've given us W and they've given us L to find out P. So we're gonna write back P, and then we're gonna substitute W, which is 4, and we're going to substitute L, which is 6, and then we can work out P. 2 bracket 4 means 2 times 4, so that's 8, and 2 bracket 6 means 2 times 6, so that's 12, and then we can add them together, so P is equal to 20. Let's look at another example. It says given the formula A is equal to B times H divided by 2, and this is the area of a triangle, the formula. It says work out A if B is 2 and H is 12. So we'll write the formula down below, and then we can substitute. We've been given B, we've been given H, and so that will help us to find A, as they're asked us to work out A. So A is equal to B, they said B is 2, so it's B times H is 12. BH means B times H, and then we need to divide by 2. Now A is equal to 2 times 12, which is 24, and 24 divided by 2 will give us 12. So the value of A is 12. Here's another example. It says given the formula A equals S squared, we need to work out A if S is equal to 5. So A is equal to S squared, and all we need to do is substitute S so that we can find A. So A is equal to 5 for S, and then we square that. So therefore means A is equal to 5 times 5, because 5 squared means 5 times 5. So that gives us 25. Another example, given the formula T equal 2 bracket P minus 5 close bracket, we need to work out T if P is 12. So we write our formula T is equal to 2 open bracket P minus 5, and they've told us what P is, so we can substitute that to work out T. So T is equal to 2 bracket P is 12 minus 5. T is therefore equal to 2 bracket 12 minus 5 is 7, so it's T is equal to 2 bracket 7. Now 2 bracket 7 means 2 times 7, so that means T is equal to 14. For this slide, there are two examples which are a little bit different from the previous examples, so please pay close attention. The first example says given the formula P is equal to 4S, we need to work out S if P is 32. So we have P is equal to 4S, but this time they need us to work out S, and they've told us P is 32, so we'd substitute 32 below P because P is 32, and then we'll have 4S. So now we have to figure out what S is. Now 4 is being multiplied by S, So therefore means we need to find out what number we will multiply by 4 to get 32. And with our solving equation method, all we need to do is divide by 4 on both sides. And so 32 divided by 4 is 8. And 4 divided by 4 is 1. So we have 1s. So therefore means the value of s when p is 32 is 8. Next example, given the formula c is equal to 2b minus 1, we need to work out b this time if c is 9. So I'm just going to write the equation below. And then they said we need b if c is 9. They told us c is 9, so we substitute 9 below c. And then we write back is equal to 2b minus 1. So we now need to solve this equation, okay, to get b. Now, first thing, we would add the 1 on both sides so that we get rid of that minus 1, and that's 0, so it leaves us with 2b on the right. And then 9 plus 1 on the left is 10. Then again, to find out what b is, because it's being multiplied by 2, we'll divide by 2, and we have to do it on both sides. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, so we have 1b on the right, and then 10 divided by 2 is 5. So when b is 5, c will work out to be 9. Here is task 2. Orange box is bronze, purple box is silver, and green box is gold. Okay, so based on the example that we just looked at with substituting into a formula to find an unknown, that's your task. Spend no more than 15 to 20 minutes doing these questions. Once you're through, resume the video to check your answers. Okay, for the orange box, it says we need to substitute the value of x into the formula to find out the value of y. So we're gonna, for the first one, it says when x is 3, we work out y. So replace the x with 3. So that's 3 plus 4 is equal to 7. So y equals 7. Here, this time y equals 3x when x is 1. So we're gonna replace this x with 1, so it's 3 times 1, so y is equal to 3. Here we have y equals 50 minus 4x when x is 5, so we're going to replace this 4x with 5, and so we're going to end up with 50 minus 4 times 5, 20, and that gives us y equal 30. For D, we're replacing our x with 6, so we'd end up with 10 times 6 is 60, and 60 minus 10 is 50, so y is equal to 50. For next one, we're replacing x with 4, so in bracket we have 4 plus 1, which is 5, and we multiply that by 3, so y is equal to 15. In our other question, y is equal to x squared. So we're replacing our x with 7. So we're going to do 7 squared. So then y is equal to 7 times 7, 49. For g, we're replacing x with 10. So in the bracket, it is 20 minus 10, which is 10. And then we need to multiply that by the 2 that's in front. So we have y equal 20. Okay, and then for the final one on h, we're replacing x with 8. X with 8. So 8 plus 4 is 12. And then 12 divided by 2 is 6. So y is equal to Okay, for our silver questions, it says find the value of x when a is 3 and b is 6. So for the first one, we just need to replace a to find out x. So 2 times 3, because a is 3, so it means that x is equal to 2 3's, which makes 6. Then we're replacing x with, not x, a with 3 and b with 6. A, b means that we multiply a and b, so 3 times 6 is 18. Then it says x equal a squared, so we're replacing a with 3 and we need to square that, so we get x is equal to 9. Here we have x is equal to b squared plus a, so we're going to replace b with 6 and we need to square that and add a, which is 3. 6 times 6 is 36, and then 36 plus 3 is equal to 39. So x is 39. For e, we're replacing a with 3 again and b with 6. And we know when we have our brackets, we need to multiply. So we would end up with 236 plus 4 times 6 is 24. So we get a total of x is equal to 30. Okay, for f, we're going to replace a with 3 and b with 6, and so we would end up with minus 3, so x is minus 3. For g, we're replacing a with 3 and b with 6. 9 plus 3 gives us 12. 12 divided by 6 is equal to 2. For our final question on silver, we're replacing a with 3 and b with 6, and then we need to divide that by 2. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 6 is 18, and then 18 divided by 2 is equal to 9. Then for gold, they said in part A that s is equal to 2y, and we need to work out y when s is 10. So if I replace s with 10, then I need to find out what do I multiply 2 by to get 10, so it means y is 5 for the first one. The next one, it says s is 42, so we need to find out what do I multiply 6 by to get 42, and that would mean y is 7. For this part C, s is equal to y squared. It says s is 9, so what do we square to get 9? Y is equal to minus 3, because minus 3 times minus 3 is positive 9. Also, it could be plus 3 as well. Okay, so those two answers could be the value of y. Okay, normally we would write y equal to plus or minus 3. Then for D, it says s is 11, so we need to find out what y is gonna be. So first we'd have to take 1 from each side, which makes 10 equal to 2y, and so find out what we multiply 2 by to get 10, and that's y equal 5. Our next question is for y minus 2 is equal to s, and they said s is 14. So we'd have to find out what y is by adding 2 to both sides, which would give us 16 is equal to 4y. And what do we multiply 4 by to get 16? That is 4. So y is equal to 4. Next question, it says s is equal to 26. So what we'll have to do is subtract 5 from each side first, which will give us 21, and then that's equal to 3y. What do we multiply 3 by to get 21? And that's y equals 7. For G, it says s is equal to 3, so we're checking what do we divide by 4 to get 3, and that number is 12, so y is equal to 12. And for a final question, s is equal to y plus 1 divided by 2. We need to find out y, and it says s is equal to 10. So we need to find out what number do we divide by 2 to get 10, and that number is 20. So y plus 1 is 20, so it therefore means that y has to be 19. Okay, now we're going to look at what happens or how to use a formula if they give you a formula with words included. It can be all words, or it could just be words with a combination of numbers and symbols. So here's your first example. It says here's a formula to work out the time it takes to cook a piece of meat, and in the orange box, that's the formula. It says the time in minutes to cook the meat is equal to 36 multiplied by the weight of the meat, and then add 30 more minutes. So part A says a piece of meat has a weight of 4 kg, and we should use the formula to work out the time in minutes that it would take to cook the piece of meat. So just to write my formula below, I'm going to use some letters for short, which is no problem. Time in minutes, I'm just going to use T for that, is equal to 36 multiplied by the weight of the meat, which I'm going to use W for that, and then add 30. Now the weight of the meat is 4 kg, so I'm going to substitute that to find out the time it will take. So time is equal to 36 multiplied by 4 kg, which is the weight of the meat, and add 30. Then we can simplify and work out what T is. So T is equal to 36 times 4. We know we multiply first, so that's 144. And then we add 30 to that. So it means T is equal to 174 minutes. And that's the time it would take to cook the piece of meat. Now let's look at part B. It says work out the weight of a piece of meat if it takes 102 minutes to cook. So I'm going to write by the formula first. T is equal to 36 times W plus 30. Now this time they gave us the time it takes to cook a piece of meat, and we have the job to work out the weight of the meat that was cooked. So we're going to replace T with 102 minutes, and then we have 36 times W plus 30. The first thing we need to do is get rid of that plus 30 by subtracting 30 on both sides. So that will give us 30 minus 30 is 0, so 36 times W. 36 times W will be left on our right, and then 102 minus 30 is going to be 72, and so we need to work out what is the value of W, which is our job to work out the weight of the meat. 36 times what number would give us 72, and that number is 2. We'd have to divide both sides by 36. 72 divided by 36 is 2. 36 divided by 36 is 1, so that's 1 W. So the weight of the meat, W, is equal to 2, and that's kg, because it told us in the equation that the weight is in kg. Here's another problem where we have been given a formula with words, and we are going to do some calculations. So it says this rule, as we know, formula is a set of rules. Okay, so this rule can be used to work out the time in minutes it takes to make microchips. And in the purple box we see the formula. It says the time is equal to the number of microchips. We divide that by 20 and then add 4. Okay, so it says in part A, work out the time it takes to make 100 microchips. So I'm just going to write the formula first. I'm going to use T for time is equal to number of microchips. I'm just going to use M for the number of microchips. We need to divide that by 20 and then add 4. So they gave us 100 microchips to find out the time to make them. So T remains the same because we want to find out what T is, the time which it takes. M represents the 100 microchips. We divide that by 20 and then add 4. So we have to divide first when we're calculating this question. So 100 divided by 20 is 5, and then we add 4 to get 9. So T is equal to 9. And notice it said in the question that time is in minutes, so therefore means that it would take 9 minutes. Okay. Part B, we have work out the greatest number of microchips that can be made in 60 minutes. So I'm going to write my formula again. T is equal to M for the number of microchips divided by 20 plus 4. This time we are working out the number of microchips. So we have 60 minutes. So replace T with 60. M remains the same. That's our job to find out what M is going to be. Divided by 20 is plus 4. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is to subtract 4 from both sides. And so 60 minus 4 is 56. And then 4 minus 4 is 0. So we're left with M divided by 20. Okay. And then we want to find out what number we divide by 20 to get 56. All we have to do is do the inverse of that by multiplying this side by 20. And because we multiply the right by 20, we'll have to multiply the left by 20 as well. So when we multiply the right by 20, the 20 will cancel to leave you with M, and then we're going to multiply 56 by 20. This is going to give us 1120. So the number of microchips that we can make in 60 minutes is 1120. For your final task, I have attached a PDF file to show my homework for you to do. Spend no more than 20 minutes doing the task, and then resume the video to check your answers. Here are your answers to task 3. Pause the video and mark. Once you are through, please send photos of your work through to show my homework for feedback. If you have any questions while doing the lesson that you would like to be clarified, please send me a message and I will respond to you as quickly as I can. Thank you and have a good day.